Rugby World Cup 2023, folks. Australia against Fiji. Pool C. Big game. Big game, this one. And I don't know, tension seems to be pretty high building into this one. We're going to go through some squads, some history, prediction, stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one's going to go. I say tensions are kind of a little bit high because if you watch that Fijian post-match press conference from the Wales game, a lot of tension. And if you watched Eddie Jones's pre-match press conference for this one, a lot of tension. So pressure seems to be pretty high given how close a lot of the teams seems to be in this pool. Speaking of close, though, things haven't been that close in terms of the recent results between these sides. Australia's got a pretty good record over Fiji. Last 5 games, it's 5-0, although the results have been kind of closer in more recent years, like back in 2010, it was 49-3. 2007, it was 55-12. But then in more recent years, last World Cup, it was 39-21. Before that, it was 37-14. Before that, it was 28-13. So, around about 15, 20 points has kind of been the more recent results between the sides. But with Eddie Jones having taken over, there's been a bit of disruption to this Wallabies side. And with Simon Rawalui doing the same, his side's kind of been galvanised. So going into the World Cup anyway, you would have said kind of Fiji, at least in the back room, has been in a better position than the Aussies. But the Aussies got that first win against Georgia, so they are 1-0, whereas a bit more pressure on Fiji having dropped that first game. For the Aussies, they've named their lineup, but there's still a big question mark about their captain. Will Skelton's been named to start in the second row, but there's a doubt about him whether he's going to be fit to play. He's going through all the medical procedures, and they're going to make a call right before kickoff as to whether he is able and fit to play, although there seems to be a bit of speculation that he won't be, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. There's also a change in the forward pack in the front row. It's Bell, Porecki still on, but then in tight head, James Slipper comes in. Like I said, it's his 4th World Cup, which is a heck of an achievement. He starts at tight head, which is not the position he's been playing many of his recent years, but he has played a bit of tight head for Australia under Dave Rennie as well in a kind of pinch situation. So he's called to do that this one with Tupou picking up a hamstring strain. I was amazed that Tupou got through the last game without injury. The fact that he picked one up between the games just seems to be par for the course with that guy recently. He's such a unit, but God, he's injury prone. So Slipper starts tight head. I mean, he's good prop no matter what you do with him, but I wouldn't say he's going to be a dominant tight head. So the Aussie scrum is probably going to be looking for parity because the Fijian forward pack's pretty bloody good. Nick Frost comes into the second row, so it means Richie Arnold drops to the bench. Tom Hooper, McReight, and Valetini, that's the same back row as last week. McReight made 11 from 11 tackles. Hooper was really busy with his carries. Valetini kind of continued his 2023 trend of being more impressive defensively than ball in hand. But, we'll see what they can do. Nick White starts with McDermott going through the old HIA protocols. And then Carter Gordon continues on at 10. So we can maybe expect Nick White to be booting the leather off the ball and Carter Gordon to be your more ball-in-hand action man. Kerevi and Petaia, that's 12 and 13. Remember, Kerevi only played kind of a managed 40 minutes in the last game. They took him off, pretty much at halftime because they weren't sure how his return to fitness was going to be. And he managed 10 carries in 40 minutes, which was pretty impressive. So hopefully he can play a little bit longer this time. Petaia was also really good at 13. So excited to see how those guys can go. And speaking of exciting, Nawaqanitawase, great under those aerial balls. Managed 5 defenders beaten 100 plus meters. He's still there on the right wing. Koroibete is there on the left. And then Ben Donaldson with that big boot of his. He remains there at fullback. So no spot in this side for Andrew Callaway. Uelese comes in as the backup hooker. Eddie said he feels like he's going to be a better fit for this game against Fiji than Fassler. Schoupp, Nonggorr, your prop replacements, that's the same. Arnold, Leota, your 2 other forward replacements, and their 3 back replacements in Fines-Leleiwasa, Foketi, and Vunivalu. So, pretty stable lineup, all things considered. But we'll see if there's any kind of late disruption with Skelton if he does end up pulling out late. Eddie really stressed the importance of trying to get a set-piece advantage against this Fijian side. For Fiji, they have also made kind of a few changes against the team from the team that played against Wales the other day. Maui, Matavesi, Atagi, that's the same front row. I mean, if they can get on top at scrum time, that'll put them way more likely to getting a victory here and kind of breaking that winless run they've had recently. When I say recently, all the way back to 2007 is the last 5 I've looked at, against the Aussies. Tirikitaveta and Silasila continue on in the second row. Tirikitaveta was one of your main kind of tackling machines. He made, I think, 7 from 8 against the Welsh guys. Remember, they had a lot of ball, so they weren't called upon to do that much defending. Vunivalu shifts to number 6. Botia is at 7. Remember, Botia is a beast at the breakdown, so look to him to disrupt Aussie ball. And then Mata made 83 metres from 22 carries from number 8 last week. So speaking of high work rate, he was just a workhorse. Kurivoli starts ahead of Lomani this week at number 9. Tetitela continues on at 10. He'll be wanting to do a little bit better with his goal kicking. And then Tui Silva and Nawaqanitawase. That is a heck of a midfield. Just as impressive as it was when it was Radra starting last week at 12. This time it's Tui Silva, who came off the bench and beat like 5 tacklers and got a try. He is such a unit. Nawaqanitawase beat 5 defenders as well. Got a clean break. Missed a few tackles though. He was 1 from 4 with his defence, which was one of the issues with Fiji last week. Waningolo starts on the right wing. Radra shifts to the left. And then Droasese continues on at fullback. The bench, Ikanavene, Ravai Dogia, same front row replacements. Mayana Vanua and Tuisui drops to the bench. Mayana Vanua is still there, same as last week as a bench replacement. Lomani, Botitu, and Habosi are the other replacements to fill out the backs. Stats-wise, I know there was a lot of talk last week about Fiji not getting the rub of the green with the refs, but I'm always a big guy like looking at your own performance and seeing, was there anything that went badly? I mean, Fiji tackled at 75%, which is their worst defensive shift this year. So I would be pointing my fingers more squarely towards that than I would the ref personally, because you can kind of control whether you make your tackles or not, whereas you can't really control the ref. If they can improve that number, then they'll be putting themselves in a much better position to get a result if they keep their kind of World Cup campaign alive. Also, 17 turnovers conceded is just a few too many. Their average has been pretty high though this year. Their averaging is like 15, 16. So kind of one of those kind of higher risk, higher turnover conceded teams. Like some teams chuck it around a bit more, they end up dropping a bit more ball. So that's kind of been Fiji. I think Japan's the only team that coughs up more ball than Fiji in that regard. But yeah, it's weird that 40% of Fiji's points come in the first 20 minutes. So if Australia can kind of survive that early onslaught, they will certainly put themselves in a better position. And then looking at the Aussies this year, the first 20 is actually their best defensive period. They get kind of progressively worse as the game goes on. Like each quarter, they concede more points than the last one on average. So their fourth quarter is their worst period defensively. So it'll be interesting to see if fitness is an issue between these sides. Aussie kicked it 40 times last week. A lot of games had a lot of kicking last week with the heat. Their average is usually 24. So with the temperature seemingly having dropped a bit, we may see a little bit less from that in Australia. But as I said, Donaldson's got a big bird at the back, but you don't necessarily want to kick it to those kind of flying Fijian backs. But it should be good rugby, man. Both sides love an offload. And Australia defensively weren't that much better than Fiji last week. Australia's tackling percentage was 77%. Like 80 is kind of bare minimum. So for both these sides to be in the 70s is pretty bad. You want to be 85, 90. Like teams like Ireland are regularly 89, 90, 91, like with their tackling completion rates, man. They're very hard to beat in the tackle. Australia have a much bigger pack, well, 953 to 928 kilograms, but a fair bit of that will be Will Skelton. If you take him out of the picture, that may drop relatively significantly. It is on at Saint Etienne. Andrew Brace is the ref for this one. Predictions-wise, Australia by 5, say the bookies, and Australia by 7, say the rugby forecast algorithm. So, yeah, it will be a pretty interesting one. Like I said, tensions are pretty high. Eddie Jones was very tetchy in his press conference, very kind of one-word, two-word answers with a lot of the guys. One journalist said he thought that they had a good relationship with Eddie Jones, and Eddie Jones said he'd have to beg to differ. Yeah, he was really, really cutting. But, yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon this one is going to go? I think this one's on at like 3:45 here in New Zealand, so I think I'll probably get up to watch this one. I've got a bit of a cold, but I figure by, I think it's Monday morning my time, I should be pretty much right. And this is such a massive game. I don't think I want to miss it. Potentially game of the weekend. We'll have to wait and see. You guys let us know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.